Yo, 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 yo! Welcome back to Content is Profit. Let's go! What are you laughing, Fonzie? What are you saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just laughing. You're like, you know what? We're going live today after we talked about it last show.
Back to the humble beginnings. You have your coffee? I have my coffee too, man. Look at that. Cheers. Clink. All right. Cheers. For those that are new to our show, if you've discovered it, you know, in the last like 300 episodes, this show was actually born on live. And if you haven't listened to the last episode, go listen to it because we talk a little bit about the power of doing stuff like this. And I personally like it a lot more because of the energy side. Yeah.
Let's go.
Fonzie, you look like you need to go to bed for a little bit, dude.
I might. I need a little nap, that's for sure.
Yes.
But I'm excited that we're live. I mean, I've been asking you this for a while, so I appreciate it.
Well, here we are, finally.
I would appreciate a heads up too, but you know, it's all good. It's all good.
Well, it was decided when you logged in, literally. So I was like, I think we can do it. I think we can do it. But I also wanted to give a shout out to everybody that has been doing your clarity challenge. So if you go to bizresults.co/monetize, Fonzie is doing one-on-one challenges. We've had 2 incredible new success stories last week, and it's been incredible. So, reach out, bizresults.co/monetize. Every single person that has also been coming to the club on businesscreator.club. We have an onboarding call. That's a totally different thing. And I literally been recommending do this challenge to gain clarity and direction for for your strategy for the next few months. So super exciting. Fonzie, shout out, dude. You've been crushing.
Appreciate it. If you're somebody that already has some sort of a proven offer, you already have a sales mechanism that is not content and you want to unlock the content side of things.
Yes.
This challenge is specifically for you. Now, we'll say we've had people on the challenge that they don't have an offer yet. So the challenge works. It might be a little bit different. So if you're interested in that way, feel free to join. But my recommendation would be to go to Business Creator Club, and that'll be a better place for you. But again, if you do have an offer that's been proven, you've sold it before, you have sales coming on through a different channel that is not content, and you want to unlock the content side of things, the challenge is for you. So go to bizresults.co/monetize and let's have a blast. Let's go.
All right. So just now, we literally had a conversation in one of the masterminds that we're in. Shout out to Podmatch and the Podmatch Elite group. And there was actually a very, I don't want to call it heated, but it was like a very opinionated art discussion. The prompt was like, what is missing in podcasting today? And I'm going to take a little further. Like, what are we missing in content in general? Because I think like what we talked about applies to every type of content creation. So I'll go over a little bit of what, the general consensus was. And I think I went like 3rd or 4th in like our rounds. And by that time, I have a list of probably 10 different things, the friction points or observations that I've gathered from people that come to create, inside of the studio or even the conversations that we have. I'm sure, Fonzie, you have some comments on here too. But before that, I want to show you a clip of shout out to Colin and Samir. Incredible show. Episode I recently listened. This is probably the first like 30 seconds. So I don't know if you've seen it yet, but here it goes.
The focus has shifted away from the creativity part of creator and shifted towards the economy part. You don't have to fit in a lane. There's a million lanes. And if your lane doesn't exist, just go ahead and start it. If you're in it because you want to make money, you want to get the views, like, fuck you, I don't care about you.
What you think? Do we have to watch it again?
I mean, I feel like I am lacking tons of context. So like, I don't know necessarily what he meant exactly at the end. Like, if you're in it for the money, fuck you, I don't care. Or is it more like, if you're in it for the money, there's still a road for you, do whatever you want? Like, what did he mean?
Well, obviously, like, this is the intro for the episode, obviously creates curiosity to go watch it, right? I did watch it. And they talk a lot about Casey's leans heavily into the creative mode, right? And obviously they're talking context on YouTube and creating content on YouTube specifically with brand deals and searching monetization. And like, obviously, monetizing through the platform is really, really challenging for the majority of the creators, right? And I think this, obviously, because we're a podcast that talks and we serve people that have businesses, I think it does apply, and it creates a debate on like, how are we framing our creation process based on our business? Like, are we creating to support a business, or are we creating in a sense to make some other kind of fulfillment, right? And personal growth. And I think that's the discussion that we had inside of the mastermind earlier when we talked about what is missing in podcasting or content specifically. And the initial question turned out because Alex, the guy that runs the Podmatch and the mastermind, he talks with some industry leaders, and they've seen the data shows that over the last like 2 years, there has been a plateau in new podcasts created, or new podcasts, like maintaining like the total amount of podcasts, active podcasts in the world, right? Obviously we saw a surge in COVID, but it's pretty interesting that over the last couple of years, that has been the case. So there's same amount of people like starting it, but there's also same amount of people stopping their journey of creation. And I am pretty okay to bet that probably YouTube, bigger numbers, but I think it's probably similar.
I mean, it could be. Personally, I think podcasting is a difficult channel, right? It takes a lot of effort. Growing is not like social media, that pretty much every short form piece of content is like a lottery ticket that you're putting out there, right? It's not like YouTube per se, where there's like so much discoverability. I mean, it is getting there now also that there's on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I mean, in reality, podcasting is a difficult platform, and a lot of people maybe come in with the wrong expectations of, I want results quicker, right? And again, it's a long-term play, very long-term play. It takes a lot of effort too to craft a good episode. I mean, obviously that depends a lot on what type of podcast you're creating, but it takes a lot of effort. Even if it's just show up consistent for 30 minutes, every single week, it is an effort. So I'm not surprised that it got stagnant. I mean, in COVID, obviously, when it got that spike, because everybody was at home and they were all like, all right, cool. What am I going to do? I'm going to make a podcast. I got nobody to talk to. I'm going to talk to myself.
Yeah. I'll share some of the responses that like the people in our mastermind shared, and then we can talk about it, and then I'll go over. Mine was more of a rant, I think, but we'll go from there. But Courtney, I mean,
I would be curious about what are the listener numbers, right? Like, has that number increased? That for me shows the opportunity, right? Obviously, more number on podcasts is the competition in a sense, if you want to put it that way. But honestly, that's better for the standing podcasts that are actively publishing, right? If the numbers of consumers is increasing, but your supply is staying the same, is actually way better for podcasters. So I'm curious, do you guys talk about that one?
It came up. There's no specific numbers on listenership, but Vinny brought in a very important point in there, like as well. So I think that's one of the things that I put in here to kind of research, like specifically like numbers of listeners. It's murky waters too, right? Because Spotify has their numbers, Apple has their numbers, YouTube now as a platform, they're claiming to be the biggest podcasting platform out there, right? Like, and then we go back to the definition, like, what is a podcast, right? It's like, it's a video conversation, or is actually RSS feed. But anyways, like those are, I guess, the topics for a different episode. But now I think like, what, I guess like within the context of, what's happening, like why creators in general, right? Maybe why are we starting? Why are we stopping? Especially on the business side, right? So Courtney mentioned the education gap. There's big education gap as far as like understanding what is a show, understanding like what it takes maybe for a successful podcast, right? We'll go into different examples. Junaid mentioned, the owning your own audience when it comes to like, are we collecting emails, right? Are we communicating with the community? Are we communicating with those people, right? He mentioned the example with Kevin Hart when he first started doing his comedy tours, and Dane Cook was the one showing him how to collect the emails before their shows so he could own his audience, and then going into different networks and creating his own platform, right? Alex, are we actually good creators, right? Like, and this is one of the topics that you and me have talked about. Are we actually good at sharing these stories? Are we actually good at providing solutions, giving value? What is good, right? Ash touched a little bit on the point of like creation for art, which is, I think, like the clip that we just watched from Casey. Is this art or not art, right? Like, and how do we frame the creation process? Are we okay with the results if we lean towards like not art versus fully creative endeavor, right? Vinny did touch about, hey, what's missing is the audience, right? Like, and this is a guy that, shout out to Vinny. He's been on the show before, but he worked for some of the biggest TV networks in the country. And right now he has incredible, clients that he helps at the top tier of entertainment. And, with that background on broadcasting and TV, he now is seeing the same thing here on podcasting, for example. Like, so, Nick also mentioned this super interesting. It's like lack of monetization programs, from specifically the podcasting platform. Like YouTube, for example, has for YouTube creators. TikTok has for TikTok creators, right? Specifically on podcasting, that does not exist. So those are some of the answers in there. It's like, why are people maybe not tackling this? Maybe why are they not lasting in long form, content creation and so on. And I think like at some level you could see that with YouTube, I think, but with YouTube and video content specifically, there might be some programs in place that kind of continue to motivate people to go into the space and continue to try things out. What do you think?
I mean, I think in a way too, it could potentially be the lack of immediate feedback, right? In comparison to some of the other platforms, you publish and pretty much rather you get feedback. I think the publishing cycle for a podcast could potentially be, longer than some of the other ones, probably comparable to a little bit to YouTube. But yeah, probably that lack of immediate feedback or immediate dopamine of some sort of results just turns people off and be like, all right, well, it's not that viable, right? Also the cost of doing a podcast, right? If it doesn't have to be expensive, but it can get very pricey, just like anything else, right? You can have a reel that can be pretty pricey. You can have YouTube videos that can be pretty pricey, but I think people that want to do it and look professionally, right, and they have to invest on microphones or go to, studios and rent them. Like we know that firsthand, right? People that come to the studio and they don't know really what to expect. And it's not only that, but then they got to pay for, the edits and all these things. So it can build up on cost rather than, but again, it doesn't have to, because you could just go live, what we're doing right now. I couldn't have this microphone and I could just be speaking from my headphones and it'd still be a podcast, right? That's why we make emphasis on quality of the message over quality of the production any day. But again, I think there's many cases. My question is, am I upset that not that many people are coming into the podcasting industry? Honestly, I don't know. I don't, because at the end of the day too, I'm like, well, I want quality podcasts, right? I want the quality podcasts to stay and like those be easy to find. Yeah. And then if you have a whole lot of noise, like, will that make those podcasts more difficult to find? Not sure. So it's interesting.
No, I love it. I have a list here of different things that I mentioned in that conversation, more as a like what is wrong, but I want to like reframe them as like, what are some lessons that we can take as a creator and kind of, move the needle in the right direction, kind of shift the focus on maybe actionable steps here for you as a creator, right? And obviously under the lenses of a business creator, like we talked in Business Creator Club and with the challenge, right? So one is, and this is also based on conversations that we've had all week, especially a couple of days ago, I had one person kind of reach out. They really want to get into the podcasting game, but everything that he was describing in my head, podcasting was this thing. And then when he described what his podcast was going to be, it was closer to short form content with influencer affiliate deals, right? And you're like, well, that brings me to one of my first points is education around the type of content that we want to create, right? Like, have we done the research to see like what is the type of content that we really want to go dive in, and is there an industry standard that we can base or start from, for example, right? What are the right expectations? Like, I mean, I think a lot of people come, especially the conversations that I have with a lot of people that want to get started in this space with the studio, is they come in and they show us some references that are people that have been in the industry or creating content for 7, 8, 9 years. And that's a reference that they have on how it has to look, how the flow of the show, the caliber of guests, the caliber of editing, all the things, right? And obviously, there's a mismatch expectations. Any comments there, Fons?
Not really. I mean, honestly, you're like expectations on whatnot, but I'm like, you make your podcast whatever you want it to make it at the end of the day, right? It's like if you get listeners and you have a podcast that it's a 1-minute format, right? Like a snackable podcast, and people listen to it, like, good, that's great, it's working out for you. But then, like, does it have to be of a certain length? I don't think that really matters, right? It's just a distribution channel, right? It's a different distribution channel. So I agree with you. That is my thing. It's like I think the only thing actually, this might be of challenge, for people to challenge, but it's like, it's mostly audio first platform, right? It's an audio first distribution channel. So people leverage it now that they do the videos and they publish it on other platforms. They distribute it in other platforms. But again, I don't think there's any specific set of rules on what is a podcast. If you have a valuable message, doesn't matter how you want to share it, you can distribute it through a podcast. And if it's good enough, and if it's, catches people's attentions and retain people's attention, then you're doing a good job.
Yeah. I'm coming more from the place of, hey, we're launching a new podcast on, let's say, on a very specific niche market, let's say real estate, right? And then the reference that they bring us is a very popular entertainment podcast with 500 episodes, right? And a high production level and high caliber guest. And the expectations on results was mismatched. It's like, okay, what can we expect to get millions of views? I've literally have that question asked a couple of times. Well, there's, different ways that we can get there, right?
I mean, from the consumer side, I think, yes, there's of course some sort of education that you have to provide. And in there would be a sense of, a big budget company comes and they want to produce super high quality podcasts. And then they're like, all right, how many, listens can we expect? It's like, that's an honest conversation I have to have with them. And it's like, well, if you just publish it, if you spend all your budget on the production side of things and just publish it and don't tell anybody, you can expect very little views, very little listens, right? But if you are putting money in the marketing, right, into advertising, cross promotions, whatever it is, then you can probably have some sort of estimate of how many downloads you can get, right? I mean, just for an example, right? When we first started with HubSpot, that we had that deal with Mopod, and I think they gave us like 10 grand to put into advertising for the podcast. We got a download for like, I think it was like every 50 cents we would get like a new download, right? Yep. So based on those numbers, you could give them an estimate. It's like, okay, look, you're going to get, 20,000 downloads for this episode, guarantee, because I know you're putting this money behind. Now the game becomes how many people do you retain through the episode if you put money behind it. So those are definitely conversations to be had, clear expectations for the people that are coming into the industry. But if they want to do it organically, it's going to take work. You're going to have to potentially do some sort of outreach, right? Let people know that you have this. If you have a list, lean into your list, send them the fact that you have a podcast. Again, that is always clarifying those things.
Yeah, that was one of the points here is like a lot of people think that the podcast is the marketing or the content is the marketing, but it's an extra layer there that, we normally have to have the conversation.
You got to market your marketing.
Exactly. We still got to market the marketing. Yeah, completely agree. Right. And those are, there's 1,000 tactics and things that you can do there, from episode swaps, feed drops, where your episode drops in somebody else's feed and vice versa. Right. Like you can run an ad inside of a different platform. They can give you a call out. You guys can exchange interviews. Like there's many ways you can place your show in a newsletter. Where is your audience? Where is the people that you want to talk to? Where are they hanging out online, in person, right? Events has been like one of the biggest drivers for us, apart from showing up on other shows inside of the network with proven audiences, right? I think there's also a sense of pride for a lot of creators. And I think this is probably lack of education between organic marketing versus paid marketing as well. A lot of people are like, well, the paid option don't even compute, maybe because of lack of resources or lack of knowledge. But we also have shows, that run in the studio that we've seen that all they do is like they run ads because, their benefit for them is like that face value of the channel maybe. And that's pretty much it, because it opens doors to new relationships, right? I recently had a conversation with one of our newer shows in the studio, and they had no idea about like the promotion tab inside of YouTube. And I just showed them a little bit of other shows, and they're like, this is perfect. And they started implementing it. And guess what? They got the conversations with the guests that they wanted to have, because that is the thing that they're looking for, right? So defining your own goals in your show, and then based on those ideal goals, like, okay, how can we get to that point?
Yep, 100%. What's next? What other points do you guys cover?
I think this was mainly on me. I think this is a general conversation, is blaming the algorithm when your content doesn't do good. My take on this is that's an external factor that not except the person that designed the algorithm knows how it works. In my specific, very, very personal point of view is these platforms want your content to do good, because the better you do, the more people watch, the more money they make, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we really have to look inside of ourselves and be like, are we actually good at delivering this content? Are we actually providing value and providing a product that people want to consume? So we're very fast to, point the finger out and blame external factors. But truly, when it comes to content and publishing, I think every single successful, person out there will tell you that is also a personal development journey when you first start creating and when you first start putting your message out there. And there is a process that we have to follow by, understanding what's happening, or, mentioning, you mentioned some of the metrics that are interesting, how many people are actually listening to the show, how long are they listening in for, and how many people are dropping off, and start making changes almost as a scientific approach to your content to be like, what if we make this change? And then what happens? Right. Stephen Bartlett in one of the, go ahead.
It's, real quick. It's content regardless of the platform. That's the thing is, can it get attention? Yeah. Can it retain attention? And that's what the platforms care about. I mean, just look at, let's say, traditional media, right? If you have a TV show that, the ratings are pretty low, after a while, let's say they're not retaining people through the show, the TV station is probably going to cut that show, right? They're not going to air it anymore, because what they want is people stick to their TVs so they can watch the advertisement that comes, during the show. And that way is how the TV station is going to make more money. So social media is the same thing, right? Like, we are the programs, and, the social medias are just the TV stations. So if our content is not good enough to attract people and retain them, why are they going to show it to people? Because if all they do is show bad content, people are just going to, go away from the platform. They're going to go somewhere else. That's going to be way more interesting. So at the end of the day, you got to be objective, leave the ego aside, and ask yourself, okay, well, I'm not getting the views that I want, or maybe I'm getting initial views, but I'm not retaining people. And you got to look at it through an objective lens and ask yourself some hard questions. Maybe, is my idea good enough, right? Maybe my delivery is not good enough. And that's how you make changes. Talking about that, we go through all that stuff in the 5-day challenge that we do. Pretty much is scientific content method. Again, the scientific method, going back to school. And if you want to learn more about that, just go to bizros.co/monetize. It's a 1-on-1 5-day free challenge. It's going to be a blast. And by the end of the 5 days, you're going to have a strategy in place that you can execute for the next 90 days. And you're going to know exactly who you're going to be talking to, what you're going to be talking about, how you're going to be creating all this content. You're going to get tons and tons of clarity. So join us at bizros.co/monetize. 5 days for free. Join us. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we're here to help you and support you on taking action, because we're done with I consumed that and I didn't take action. No, man, we're here to legit keep you, hold your hand and be here's how you take action on this thing, and and create some momentum. And going hand in hand, on that same event that from the clip I played, Stephen Burley had an interview too. And he talks about the tiny change that, that increased something like 300% their podcast consumption and so on. And the principle behind it was sweat the small stuff. Obviously they have a massive platform. They've been publishing for a long time and they have a lot of resources. But he mentioned an example of when a guest comes in, they play the music, their favorite song, for example. They collect that information ahead of time. They do some research on that person, right? They monitor the oxygen levels in the room, right? To that point, whereas they have to maintain it above a certain threshold, so they're both sharp and having the conversation and not feeling drunk, right? Obviously, go ahead.
I will say real quick. Obviously, that's amazing, and you're the nuance, it's pretty impressive. But then somebody that's starting, they listen to that stuff and they're like, dang, I don't have an oxygen machine that I can put in there for my guests.
Okay. And then they shut down there. And I this is the point that he's making. Is a lot of people out there. And I agree with him. It's okay, why are we looking for excuses of whatever? Work with what you got. The one of the things that I think helped us get this show off the ground, and not that we're massively successful with the show, but I feel like our show has created opportunities for us to do this full time and own our own business without having to do anything else, for example, right? So it's how are we different? And one of those things where the live intros with our guests initially, and we have music and work with what you have. How can you create an experience with little details, right? That might mean something for your guests, for yourself. How can you do that 1% improvement? Is it maybe you saved, and this is an example for somebody in our community, right? Where they saved a ton, for a full month to get a better microphone, right? A couple $100 extra. And that for them, that was the 1% better that month. And then after that is maybe I get a side light, or maybe, I leave work early so I can, record with natural light instead of if you don't have any lights, for example. Those are little things that we can control. And every single week, if we go back through the process and we get better, or how do I deliver a better hook? How do I, deliver a better title, a better headline? Am I continuing my education on the craft? And then that leads me to the next point. It's are we enjoying this process? Do you enjoy working with the partners that you're working, right? At the end of the day, it's all these things that will help you move the needle forward.
I was going to say something and I forgot. But yes, I agree 100% with everything you're saying. Use what you got. I remember now what I was going to say. Alex Hormozi talks about this a lot, which is you can be different just by doing 10 minutes or 15, 20 minutes of research before the thing that you're going to do. And that applies. He usually talks about that in the sales environment conversation, but it's the same with podcasting. We've been in shows that you can tell, dude, they haven't listened to anything on that we talk about. They don't really know us. And that was differentiator when we first started doing interviews, is that we would spend before the show a couple of hours literally just creeping over the guests' social media, right? Trying to learn what weird things they like or what songs they like, right? Like one of our guests, we noticed that they always walked out on stage for our live events to a specific song. So guess what? We got the song, we loaded up on the Roadcaster. When they come out on the show, we play that. Immediate rapport. They were like blown away for that. Some of them we make jokes, right, about the things that we notice. And then during the conversation, we bring them up to just create that feeling of rapport as well. So you can really differentiate yourself by doing just a little bit of research, and not just on the interview-based conversations, right? But any other sort of podcast that you might want to be doing. Yeah,
even with short form content. I mean, if you have one of these guys, I'm showing a cell phone. You have a pretty decent camera and microphone that will allow you to create at the end of the day. So it's like, how can we be a little bit different? Is it like what I'm wearing? Is it like maybe a message on the back of the wall that I'm recording? Is it like the angle that I'm recording at the end of the day, right? Is it what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. Like, people, I think, put a lot of attention in like the way that it looks versus, hey, what's coming out of my mouth, is that actually good, valuable content for the audience that I'm talking? And value will be different for like any different types of audiences, right? Like, there is content literally for everybody. What was the example? I think it was like Alex, or even with these guys. Oh yeah, Casey. On the video I showed you, that full interview, he talks about, they ask him like, who's a creator that you've been like obsessed with lately, or you've been like consuming? And he names this guy, I forget the name. And it's like, guess the topic. And he's like, World War II history. And the guy's like, I've seen this guy evolve over the last 5 years, but the topic for him is fascinating. And to me personally, I can care less, but for him, he likes it. And so 2 other million people that subscribe to this guy's channel, right? And as a creator, he initially was a talking head video, and then he became better, and then he got some resources, and then he continued to evolve. But he has probably like hundreds of videos in the platform, putting in the time, putting in the reps, learning and moving. But he has the audience for like that niche content. So at the end of the day, it's like, what are we saying? What we're saying, does that make sense? Or that adds value to the people? And we appreciate every single person that has like stuck with us in Content is Profit over the last few episodes, because sometimes I know that we chat and we create in a way that maybe makes not a lot of sense, but here we are.
So done with love.
Yeah, we're here with love. So, and again, like we've said it repeatedly, right? Like, we create the show first also for us, right? It's our way to communicate, it's our way to, bring energy, to document the things that we're doing, and to share what we've been learning. So sometimes it's going to be raw, and sometimes it's going to be a little more structured. Fonzie, you good?
Yeah, 100%.
Am I delayed in your...
No, you get the thing is,
okay.
I got people in the house right now, so I'm like muting myself and I'm muting myself.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. It's fine. We can still hear them. But anyways, I think that concludes. I think it was a little bit of a rant, or like what's happening in the space. I'm definitely interested, if you are a creator, if you're creating on YouTube or social media or even podcasting, and you're facing some of these challenges, or you're like, oh my gosh, like what's next? Like, how can I do this? Or maybe you find a solution for your show. Like, how do you define success for your show, for your content, and you're moving the needle forward? It's giving you results. We want to hear from you. We want to showcase your story. 1, if you want to be a guest on the show, and 2, we'd love to share the business and kind of what you're doing with content in there. If you're that person that is looking a little bit extra help, bistros.co/monetize, jump on that 5-day challenge. Is going to bring massive traction to you. And if you want a little bit more general open Q&A kind of session with the community, businesscreator.club. We hang out there every Thursday at 11 a.m. and there's other resources that you can lean on to do that. Today, I was working on our special Studio Podcast Suites podcast editing process, baby. Let's go. It's almost ready. So we can put in there. If you want to just record, or you have just recorded, you want to edit, use your own tools. I am sharing everything in there, guys. So I'm excited. Fonzie, anything else before we head out?
No, I'm excited to see you guys in the challenge, and just don't be afraid to create, regardless of the platform, or regardless of the distribution. If you feel like you really want to jump into short form content, or you really want to jump into YouTube or podcasting, like, just do it. Right at the end of the day, the first one is never gonna go viral. It's never gonna go great, but the whole game is a game of improvement, right? Can you get a little bit better on your next round, and then a little bit better on the next one after that? And that constant improvement is what's going to make the difference, and what's going to help you, leverage your content for profit.
That's right. All right, guys, take care, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.